Good evening and a very good day to everyone. Respected lecturer and fellow friends, welcome to our Pedagogy in Education Forum. My name is Siti Nazwanida binti Lambayung and I will be your moderator for today's forum. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. The topic of our discussion is active learning strategies for effective teaching. Active learning is a teaching approach that encourages students to participate actively in learning process. Unlike the traditional teacher-centered approach, active learning allows students to think critically, solve problem, solve problem, work together with their classmates, communicate effectively, and build knowledge through meaningful learning experience. This topic is very important in 21st century education because education today is not only about academic achievement, but it also about developing important skills such as critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. Active learning also supports Sustainable Development Goal 4, SDG for quality education, um, which focuses on providing inclusive, equitable, and quality education while promoting lifelong learning opportunities for everyone. To discuss the topic greater detail, we have four panel members who represent different roles in education field. Panel 1, Adriana Binti Suling, the head of subject teachers, will explain the definition, learning theories, and importance of active learning. Panel 2, Maria Sarakova Eva Side, the District Education Officer, will share active learning strategies and example of classroom teaching activities. Panel 3, Muhammad Farhan bin Faisal, the Vice Principal, will discuss research findings, benefits and evidence of the effectiveness of active learning. And panel 4, Daphne Liley, the subject teachers, will explain the challenges, possible solution, and how active learning supports SDG 4. We hope today's forums will help everyone gain a better understanding about active learning and how it can improve the quality of education in Malaysia. Without further delay, I would like to invite our head of subject teacher, Adriana Binti Suling, to answer the first question. Okay. As as the head of subject teacher, could you explain what active learning strategies and which learning theories support this approach? Also, why has active learning become increasingly important in today's education system?
Hello, everyone, respected moderator and fellow panel. As a panel one and as a head of subject teacher, I will begin by explaining the definition of active learning, the theory that supports it, and why it is important in today's education. So let's begin with the basic question: what we actually mean by active learning. Simply, active learning is a shift from the traditional way of teaching, where students mainly sit, listen to the teacher, and take notes. Instead of being passive receiver of information, students become actively involved in the learning process. They discuss ideas, solve problems, work together in their classmates, and reflect on their own understanding. Bonwell and Eason explain that active learning is not just about making students participate in activity to keep them busy. The key idea is that students should be involved in meaningful tasks while also thinking critically about their learning. That element of reflection and critical thinking is what makes learning more effective. So this approach also changed the role of teacher in the classroom. Teachers are no longer the only source of knowledge. Instead, they become facilitators who guide students, encourage discussion, ask meaningful questions, and provide them support for students to develop their understanding through the learning process. So the next next is the theory of learning, the theory of active learning. Now this isn't just trendy tech fad, it's backed by decades of solid psychological specifically, a theory called constructivism. You might ever remember like name like Jean Piaget or Lev Vygotsky from training. The core of constructivism is pretty beautiful. It says that human being not just observe knowledge like sponge, we have to build it. Piaget argued that we learn by taking the information and activity, trying to fit in with what we already know about the world. Vygotsky took that a step further and said, yes, we do that best when we talk to each other. He proved that learning is deeply social act. We learn through collaboration, peer feedback, and bit of guidance. So, when you see classroom doing their group work or taking a mess, real world problem together, that is just not a noise. That is constructivism in action. It's students refining their thoughts and bouncing them off with someone else. So, why this matter so much? Why should we take this effort to shift our teaching style? Honestly, because it just works better. First of all, the engagement levels skyrocket when kids are actually allowed to move, talk, contribute. They don't get bored. They have skin in the game. Secondly, it forces them to think. Anyone can memorize a fact for Friday quiz and forget it by Monday. But when students have to analyze data, debate a peer, or apply a concept to a real world scenario, they are actually building a deep problem solving skills. This will lead to the third point, which retention. You remember what you do, not just what you hear. When students actively work through a concept, it stick. It moves from short-term memory into deep understanding. So look, at the end of the day, our job isn't just to help them pass exam, it's to prepare them for life. The modern world doesn't care what you memorize. It's care what you can do with what you know. So active learning will build the exact 21st century skill they need, such communication, teamwork, adaptability, and independent thinking. So it's prepare them for careers that haven't been involved yet. So as a conclusion, active learning is a student-centered approach that encourages students to participately in constructing knowledge. It's supported by constructive theory, which emphasizes learning through experience, interaction, collaboration, and the most importantly, active learning increases engagement, strengthen critical thinking, improve knowledge retention, and develop important skill for the future. And that's all from my part. Thank you, and I will pass back to the moderator.
Thank you for your explanation, Panel 1. It is clear that active learning is just not about teaching method but an approach that encourages students to participate actively in today's education system. In this is the follow-up question. In your opinion, what changes can be seen when school practice active learning compared to traditional teaching method?
Thank you for your question. In my opinion, school that practice active learning become more student-centered compared to traditional classroom. Instead of just listen to teachers, students actively participate through discussion, collaboration, and problem solving. So this will increase engagement, improve critical thinking, and help students understand concept more deeply. Teacher also shift from being the main source of knowledge to the facilitator who guide learning. So overall, active learning creates a more interactive and meaningful learning environment while developing essential 21st century skills.
That's all.
Kami,
That's all. Thank you, panel one. Now, I would like to invite our district education officer, Maria Sarakova Eva side. The question is, what active learning strategies can teachers use in classroom? And could you also share some suitable examples of teaching and learning activities?
Thank you, moderator. Now, I would like to continue our discussion by explaining several active learning strategies that teachers can apply to create a more effective and engaging learning environment, together with some practical example of how this strategy can implemented in classroom. Active learning is a teaching approach that actively involves students in the learning process. Instead of simplify listening to the teacher explanation, students are encouraged to think critically, discuss ideas, solve problems, and work together with their classmates. This approach encourages engagement and helps them build knowledge through meaningful learning experiences. The first strategy is think patient. In this strategy, the teacher begins by asking a question or presenting a situation related to the lesson. Students are first given some time to think about the question individually. After that, they discuss their ideas with a partner before sharing their response with the whole class. For example, in a science lesson on environment pollution, the teacher may ask, what are the main causes of water pollution in our community? Students think first about the question on their own, then discuss with the answer with a partner, and finally present their ideas to the class. This strategy helps students develop confidence, improve communication skill, and learn to appreciate different perspectives from their classmates. The second strategy is problem-based learning. This strategy encourages students to solve real-life problems instead of simply receiving information from the teacher. Students work together in groups to identify the problem, gather relevant information, discuss possible solutions, and present their findings. For instance, in a mathematics lesson, students can be asked to prepare a budget for organizing a school event. They need to calculate expenses, compare different costs, and decide on the most suitable budget plan. Through this activity, students not only apply mathematical concepts but also strengthen their critical thinking, decision making, and teamwork skill. In conclusion, strategies such as think patient and problem-based learning can make teaching and learning more interactive and student-centered. This strategy not only helps students gain knowledge, but also develop essential 21st century skills such as communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and problem solving, which are important for their future learning and personal development. That's all for me. Thank you, and I would like to hand the session back to the moderator.
Thank you, Panel Su, for sharing those examples. I believe these strategies can increase student participation and interest during lessons. This is your follow up question. Among the strategies you mentioned, which one do you think is the most effective for secondary school students and why?
Thank you for the question. One active learning strategy that teacher can use is think patient. In this strategy, students think first about the question individually, then discuss the ideas with a partner before sharing their response with the whole class. As I mentioned earlier, this strategy can be applied in all lesson session, which is an English lesson. For example, during the lesson, the teacher can provide a short passage and ask students to identify the main idea. Students first think about the answer individually, then discuss it with a partner, and finally share the ideas with the class. This activity encourages active participation while improving student communication and critical thinking skills. Thank you.
That's all. Thank you for panel 2. Now let's move to panel 3, our Vice Principal, Muhammad Farhan bin Faisal.
Okay, thank
Based
you.
on your Based on your research and observation, what are the benefits of active learning and what are the benefits of active learning for student participation, academic achievement, and 21st century skills? Also, are there any studies that supports the effectiveness of this approach?
Okay, thank you, moderator. So after understanding what active learning is, let's look whether it is actually works in real classroom. As we know, there are many educational studies have shown that active learning is more effective than traditional lecture-based teaching. Students who actively participate in learning activity generally achieve better academic results, retain information longer, and develop stronger communication and problem-solving skills. Based on my research about active learning, I have two icon that I can bring in my research. The first one is Freeman et al., which is at 2014. He's conducted a meta-analysis involving over 225 studies in science, engineering, and mathematics education. Based on my research result, I can say that students in traditional lecturer class were 1.5 times more likely to fail than those experiencing active learning. For example, colleges analysis more than 225 studies that found students who learn through active learning perform significantly better in exam. They also discovered that students in lecture only classroom were much more likely to fail compared to students who participate in active learning activities. Besides that, I also did my research by Prince 2004, which conclude that active learning consistently improves in few ways such as students understanding classroom participation, long long-term knowledge retention, and critical thinking skills. In other words, Prince conclude that active learning constantly increase students' understanding of lesson, encourage participants, improve long-term memory, and develop higher order thinking. For the benefit of active learning, I can give three benefits. The first one is it's improves students' engagement. Students will become more active to participate instead of passive listener. For example, students will more to ask questions than just listening to what teacher explained. They also become more active in discussing ideas and solving problems together, especially when it comes to grouping assessment. Besides of improved student engagement, active learning also can give a better critical thinking to students. I'm saying that because it's instead of memorizing facts, students will more to analyzing ideas, evaluating and create a better solution to solve the problem. These are the most important skill that student needs, especially in this digital modern era. Not only that, active learning can improve communication and collaboration among students. It said so because active learning encourages students to work in terms or groups, express their own opinion confidently, and the most important is to respect other viewpoints. All this, all these are the most valuable life skill beyond school for students. And the evidence I can say is based on real classroom situation. It is already proved that active learning are success among students For example, in science lesson, instead of simply listening to a teacher explain population, students work in group to investigate the causes of pollution in their local community, supposed to possible the solution. Through this process, they gain a deeper understanding while also improving their teamwork, their communication, and their problem solving skills. All these benefits strongly supports Sustainable Development Goal 4, which aims to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education for all. Active learning can encourage every student to participate of their learning style or ability. Thank you.
Thank you, panel. Thank you, panel three, for the answer. The research findings clearly show that active learning has a positive impact on students' overall development. So, for your follow-up question is: besides improving academic performance, what other important skill can students develop through active learning?
In my opinion, I think student can develop their skills such as they can get a better critical thinking, they can solve their problem more creatively, and their social skill will become more better than before. That's all.
Thank you for your opinion. Now, I would like to invite panel four, our subject teachers, Daphne Liley. Daphne Liley.
Thank you,
So we
moderator.
know, so we know that active learning has many advantages, but there are also challenges in implementing it. But the question is, what are the main challenges teachers face, and what solution would you suggest? Also, how does active learning support SDG for quality education?
Thank you, moderator. As a panel four and as a subject teacher, I will explain the main challenges teachers face when implementing active learning, the possible solutions, and how active learning supports sustainable development goal 4, which is quality education. Active learning is a teaching approach where students actively participate in the learning process instead of only listening to teachers. They engage in discussion, solve problems, work in groups, and reflect on what they have learned. Although this approach has many benefits, teachers may face several challenges when applying it in the classroom. The first challenge is managing active learning in large classroom. In classes with many students, it can be difficult for teachers to monitor every group and ensure that all students are actively participating. Some students may be confident and contribute frequently, while others remain quiet or depend on their group members to complete the task. As a result, not every student receives equal opportunities to learn or receive feedback. In addition, classroom discussion may become noisy, making it harder for teachers to maintain focus and keep students on task. The second challenge is limited time for planning and conducting active learning. Unlike traditional lectures, active learning requires teacher to prepare meaningful activities, discussion questions, worksheets, or digital resources before the lesson. During class, students also need enough time to discuss ideas, complete tasks, and present their work. However, teachers often need to finish a large syllabus within a limited period. This may cause them to reduce or skip active learning activities, even though they know these methods are beneficial for students. To overcome this challenge, to overcome these challenges, the first solution is to provide professional development and continuous support for teachers. Schools and educational institutions should organize workshops or training sessions that focus on active learning strategies, classroom management, and the effective use of educational technology. These programs help teachers gain confidence and learn practical techniques that they can apply in different classroom situations. When teachers receive proper guidance and support, they are more likely to implement active learning successfully. The second solution is to use technology and well planned group activities. Digital tools such as online quizzes, collaborative platform, and interactive learning application can increase student engagement while helping teachers monitor learning more efficiently. I'm sorry. This program helps teachers gain confidence and learn practical technique that they can apply in different classroom situations. The second solution, I'm so sorry. Now let us look at how active learning support SDG 4 quality education. Firstly, active learning improves the quality of education by developing higher order thinking skills. Instead of memorizing facts, students can analyze information, solve real world problems, evaluate different ideas, and communicate their opinions. This learning experience helps students understand concepts more deeply and prepare them to face future academic, workplace, and everyday challenge. As a result, students will become more independent learners who are motivated to continue learning throughout their lives. Secondly, active learning promotes inclusive and equitable education, which is one of the main goals of SDG 4. Through group discussions, collaborative projects, and hands on activity, students from different backgrounds and with different learning abilities have opportunities to participate and express their ideas. This creates a supportive learning environment where every student feels valued and respected. By encouraging participation and collaboration, active learning helps reduce learning gaps and ensure that education is meaningful and accessible for everyone. In conclusion, active learning is an effective teaching approach that encourages students to participate actively in their own learning. Although teachers face challenges such as managing large classrooms and limited preparation time, this issue can be addressed through professional training, effective planning, and the use of technology. Most importantly, active learning supports SDG 4 quality education by improving students' critical thinking skills and creating a more inclusive learning environment. By working together, teachers, schools, and students can make active learning a successful approach that benefits all learners. That's all from me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you for all the response. So we have come to the end of today's forum. Through our discussion, we have learned that active learning is a student-centered teaching approach that encourages students to participate actively in learning process. We also learned about the different strategies that teachers can use, the benefits supported by research, the challenges faced by educators, and the possible solution to improve its implementation. It is clear that active learning plays an important role in achieving SDG 4 quality education by creating a more inclusive, engaging, and meaningful learning environment for all students. Before we end this forum, I would like to express my sincere appreciation and gratitude to all of our panel members for sharing their valuable knowledge, ideas, and experiences. I would like I would like to thank our lecturer and everyone who take the time to watch and support our forum today. With that, we have come to the end of our forum. I'm Siti Nazwanida Binti Lambayong. On behalf of all the panel members, would like to thank everyone for your attention and participation. Thank you for your attention. That's all.